Good morning. This is Dee May, and this is the first episode where I have a guest on the Eternal Evolution of Self podcast. And this is Amanda C. And I'm going to have her tell us how to actually pronounce her last name here in just a minute. But I want to tell you a little bit about her first. Amanda is an award-winning national board certified health and wellness coach. She specializes in coaching teens and young adults who are struggling with life challenges and through the stresses of transitioning to adulthood. She has an undeniable passion to empower every young person to understand the power of the mind, their innate wisdom, and how to build a thriving future. Combining her passion and proven results based program, she equips her clients with essential life skills, effective goal setting tools, and stress management strategies to become confident, self motivated, independent, and resilient adults. Amanda continues to commit herself to making it her life mission for every young person to have a coach. Welcome, Amanda. I'm so excited to have you today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Dee. This is awesome. I'm super excited to be here.
You're very welcome. Tell us what made you decide to get into coaching children or young adults, I should say.
Oh my goodness. Well, really, my biggest inspiration, I think, was really my own journey as a teenager. I really struggled as a teen trying to figure out all of the things. I think many of us can actually probably relate to that, but it's such a transitional point in our lives. And though I had, an incredibly supportive family and all those things, I really just felt lost. And so I don't want other young people to have to struggle like I did. I really figured so much out on my own. And I wish that I had somebody like me as a teenager. So I want to be that, guiding light, I guess, if you will, for other young people. So yeah, they don't have to struggle. It doesn't have to be that way.
It is a struggle when you're in school and there's so many outside influences outside of your home. I used to be married, and my when my kids were little, my ex-mother-in-law would blame the parents for everything that the child did that wasn't as it should have been. And I remember telling her one time that there's so many outside influences after you get out of the house. I mean, I can't believe how educated my kids got on the bus going to school. Like, holy cow. I mean, because you have kindergartners on the bus and you have seniors on the bus, so there's this big, huge age gap, and they really get a lot of education just on the bus. So it's really interesting. How do you feel about that? And how would you encourage parents to approach that? Or even the kids that you coach, how would you encourage them to approach that environment where there's such a diverse age group in one place?
It, it really is, right? And I think, something to really keep in mind is how important it really is to have that open communication, because as much as there's this like positive side of like the education that they're getting and supporting younger kids, and like you can see their kindness or their empathy coming out for the younger kids, or even just their age, but in this environment where there's lots of age groups. But there's also the stories that I hear also from my teen clients of the things that may not be what we want our kids to be educated about on the school bus, like with every kid having a cell phone, like you don't know what they're searching for, what they're looking for, what they're looking at. So really, I think my biggest piece of advice would be to encourage that open communication, because if they were to see something or learn something that maybe doesn't sound right to them or they're not sure about, to have that open communication so that as parents we can have those conversations with our kids and answer their questions. Like there's so many of my clients where they'll say to me, I'm not sure about something, and I always get curious, well, if you don't know, what do you do? Well, I just look it up on Google. And I mean, yes, there are some good things that we can find on there, but with curiosity of teenagers as well, some of the other things that they can find on Google may not be exactly what we want them to be learning about, or it's either Google or it's, oh, well, I ask a friend. And oftentimes, it's sometimes the blind leading the blind. Like their friends don't really even know yet, right? So yes, there's definitely, a lot of really great skills that they can learn in these environments where there's a mix of ages, but there's also, this awareness of the things that they might be picking up that aren't necessarily the best,
Mhm.
And so having that open communication, I feel like just, allows that opportunity to have those conversations.
Absolutely. I'm a definite proponent of giving your kids a safe place to come to, because even if they're doing something wrong, like, we don't always make the best choices when we're a teenager, or even as an adult, but especially as a teenager, because we don't have that life experience yet. And I feel like even though kids don't always make the best choices, they need to have a safe place to talk about it and express it. So I feel like that's really important. And I'm so happy that you're helping kids navigate this. And you did mention social media, and there's a lot of crazy stuff on social media now. I mean, there's just no filters on some of these folks who post. How do you encourage kids to navigate the world of social media?
Ooh, this is a tricky one. Because again, I mean, like anything, right? There is the positive side of social media, like, being able to interact, but there's so much. And now they're doing so many studies and noticing how being on social media is actually not as great for our kids because we get into this, comparison trap,
Mhm.
right? That where
Yes.
they're comparing themselves to other people and or just not removing themselves, like they become so consumed by social media. Or I think of when I was in school, there was bullying, but it kind of stopped when once you left the physical school, right? But
Right.
now it's not, it's everywhere, it continues. So there's, oh gosh, so many things. And I think, really helping young people to really understand that oftentimes social media is really just somebody's highlight reel. And I think we can relate to this like at any age, right? Even as adults, we sometimes do this. Like this is just human nature. We fall into this trap of comparison. And
Yes.
so I think first calling that out and bringing their awareness, and though maybe yes they may recognize or they may understand this, but reminding them of it, because sometimes we all need a reminder, right? So
Yes.
reminding them that this doesn't necessarily mean that this is exactly how this person's life is, or that we don't need to compare ourselves to others, and then in that same conversation to be able to help them identify, well, what are their strengths, what makes them unique, what makes them special, so that we can help to build their confidence. Because I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like if we can build our self-confidence, then whether we see somebody else who's accomplishing something, or we see somebody else that's has the perfect, quote unquote, the perfect figure, like all of these things, right, that social media can sometimes portray,
Yeah.
that we can come out of that a lot quicker and be like, okay, well, we can be mm, we can be sure of ourselves. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? And I think that that really, there's so much power in that. And if there was one last thing I would say, is also as parents to model that for your kids. Like, you know what I mean? To
Yes.
be that example for them of, how we can use social media, or just even using our phone in general, right? That we
Mhm.
don't need to have it attached to our hip. We can put it down, we can live
Right.
without it, and take a break from social media.
Yeah, I think breaks from social media are really, really great. And I totally agree with you that it is what we make it, because a lot of people think that social media is just terrible and they won't even get on there at all. But it does have its really fine points to it. And I rather enjoy my social media because I've created a really nice space for myself. I don't have any negativity on there. If I see it, I'll give it a couple chances to see if it's just a one-off, because sometimes we have a bad day and we just feel like we need to share that, or, some of us do. But if I continue to see it, then I will just unfollow that person. You don't even have to unfriend them, unless it's like something really drastic, but I'll unfollow that person just so that I don't have to see it on my feed every day, because I see a lot of positivity, and that's what I prefer to focus on, because where focus goes, energy flows, right? But I love what you
Yeah.
said about the being themselves and being confident in that. I don't know if you know who Lisa Nichols is. Do you know who she is? Okay, well, I
Hmm.
was just listening to a video by her, and she said that she fails, but she doesn't look at it as a failure, right? But she is authentically herself. She said, if you want me to do Oprah, I'm going to fail you every time. But if you want me to be Lisa, now I have her down. Like I know everything about Lisa. I can be Lisa. So we can't, no matter how amazing the person is, we can look to them for inspiration and encouragement as far as how we want our life to be, but trying to be that person and act like them and take that on, we can't do that, because they already have that. They're already them, no matter how amazing they are. We get to be our amazing selves. So I think that's a really powerful message, to not just for kids, but for adults too. I think it's really a tough one though. So how do we get, especially young people, with all the crazy stuff that they have going on in their worlds right now at school and, social media, and how do we get them to the place where they feel like they're confident enough to be themselves?
Ooh, isn't that like the big question? Yeah, it's true. And I think where I'm, you know, really start with my clients is helping them to identify their strengths, helping them to identify what makes them special, what makes them unique, what are their gifts, what are their talents, and what makes them them. And sometimes that could just be as simple as writing it down. Like, what are the things that, just you're really good at and maybe doesn't require a whole lot of effort? It just comes naturally to you,
Yeah.
because those are the things that are easy. And yeah, there's other things, that we can practice and we can learn to get better at.
Yes.
But if we start with, these are just the things that I'm really great at, and this is, maybe I'm just really kind, or maybe, when I see somebody who is upset, I'm the first one to, be there to help them. Or, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that is like it should also be our skills. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, including the things that the skills that our skill set. And I don't know, I think that that is probably the best place to start. And
Yeah.
then from there, then you start to recognize, oh, wow, maybe Susie or maybe Oprah is really great at, having this motivational, thing. And I think then we can, my belief is, when we are recognizing these things in other people, it's because we possess them ourselves and we just need to find a way to express it. And so
Right.
oftentimes we start with, okay, what are their skills? Then we move on to, well, what are the people that maybe they are role models to them,
Mhm.
and what are the skills, or what are the traits, or what are the things about that person, the things that they do that they really value, or they really appreciate, or they would like to have. And
Mhm.
then it's reminding them that if you can recognize that in somebody else, it does live in you. Maybe it needs to be nurtured,
Right.
or your awareness of it, right? Or maybe it's something, a little bit of a muscle that you need to work a little bit more, but you do have that in you. And it's the light bulb moments when you say that, and they're like, really? Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, I think that's, I mean, oh gosh, we could we could be here all day, but I think in, in the beginning, to start off, I think that's a really great place to start.
It is. And it's really exciting to watch someone recognize when that light comes on in their eyes. And they're like, oh,
Mhm.
that's me. Like I can do that. And I have that skill. And I think a lot of times, especially when you're younger, but even as adults, I'm finding quite a bit too, though, is it's not always the obvious thing. It's not always that you're a painter or that you're a great singer or that you're really
Mhm.
super great at throwing a football. It's sometimes it's the quieter things like you're a great leader or you're really super great at organizing things or whatever it is in that way. So it's sometimes those what's referred to as softer skills that are and they're profoundly important. We can't diminish the importance of those things, you know? I mean, they're equally important. And even though they may not be as obvious, they're still huge and they're going to get you to a beautiful place if you allow them to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes too, as you were talking, I'm thinking, you know, another because sometimes those things are so innate, we don't even realize like I know for myself, I've been going through my coach training, there were certain things that I was called out for, like, "Oh, wow, you're really great at this as a coach." And for me, I didn't recognize that as a coaching skill because
Yeah,
it's my personality. It's just who I am
right.
because I'm just a coach. Like, that's just who I am. But what I found was in if we get stuck on these finding these like more soft type skills, right? We ask other people, like, how would you describe me in 5 words or less? Or what skills do you think that I really like that I possess?
Yes.
So sometimes asking other, and I mean, we don't go asking everyone, it's those trusted people, right? Those people that you
Yes.
really value their opinions and asking them maybe how they would describe you or what skills they think, because it is sometimes hard to recognize them in ourselves, especially when they're just innate. You know, it's
Yes.
something that you don't actually try to do. It's just who you are as a person. And so I feel like that's something that I would want to mention there because it can be hard to identify, you know, those types of things when it's just who you are. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes. And it can. And sometimes you're just so busy being you. And, we think about what other people think about us, but we don't always know. So when someone actually tells you they see you in a certain way, sometimes it's very surprising. And you're like, really? Like I had a friend the other day, just this week, and I was talking to her and she said, you are one of the smartest women I know. And I was like, really? Like you see me that way, because you don't always realize how, like Steve tells me that. But I never realized my friend actually saw me that way. So it was
Mhm.
really a pleasant compliment for me because I didn't realize that she saw me that way. So I think that it would be really fantastic for especially young people to ask and see how their friends see them because they might be really surprised at the feedback they get and in a pleasant way.
This is such a powerful exercise too between teens and their parents. And we do this both ways, right? So the teen asks the parent and the parent asks the teen. And it is so powerful. So powerful. Yeah.
Gosh, I love that. I would have never thought about doing that, but I think that's an amazing and that gives you that open communication that you were talking about earlier, which I feel is like just hugely important between especially teenagers, kids, period, but especially teenagers, because it's such a crazy time. I mean, minus all the craziness at school and social media, all those hormones. I mean, your body is just
Mm.
going crazy inside of itself. So just that by itself it's nice to have that just safe place where you can go and just in your own home, just have that space that is so beautiful and sacred. I love that. I love that you encourage that between parents and their kids. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, like, asking each other what do you think my strengths are? And I think that this is, yes, not only powerful for teens and parents, right? But when you look at it like, so oftentimes teens feel like their parents are, and not that this is their intention, right? But
Right.
they can be critical, or, they're often asking them, oh, do this, do that, or, oh, you didn't do this, or, and not that this is, all parents, but
Right.
sometimes we don't even realize that we're we're like flipping the script and really focusing on the positives, like
Mhm.
intentionally focusing on the positives, right? Because it's easy to be, oh, your room's a mess, clean your room, and those kinds of things. So for teenagers, it's often feeling like their parents are nagging on them, or I mean, even sometimes parents feel this way, that they're always nagging on their kids.
Yes.
So when we can take the other side of that and really focus on strengths, then teens are, again, that open communication, suddenly feel like, oh, my mom, my dad, they hear me, they see me, they do think that
Yes.
I'm good at something, or those kinds of things. And then for the parent, I think it's really powerful to see, because we often feel like we're nagging our kids, or we often feel like, maybe especially as teenagers, because teens are really trying to find their independence, and so they're separating from their parents more so, whereas maybe in the past they would have leaned on their parents a little bit more, and so
Yeah.
parents start to feel like, wait, where's my little, where's my little baby, what's
Yeah.
happening? And so um being able to have teens recognize something in you as a parent can be really profound, because it's just really enlightening. It's a really, really enlightening exercise. I would encourage anyone who's listening to actually do this, because it's really, really powerful.
Right. I feel like it is too. That is absolutely incredible. I would have never thought of doing that. And I'm thinking in my mind, how different would my kids have perceived things if I'd have done that simple exercise, which I was a parent that I never wanted to go backwards. Like people would be like, well, don't you miss when they were a baby? And I'm like, no, that wasn't me. I never wanted to go backwards. I enjoyed my kids at every stage, but I liked the moving forwardness of the evolution of their life, So I really enjoyed that. So I don't want to go backwards. But for the parents who are having a hard time accepting that their child is growing up and changing, and I think that's a great exercise. And I have a quick question for you because I just thought about this. I think it might be a little bit easier with boys than girls. So, do you find that there's a difference in the way dads, especially, approach their little girls turning into young women?
Ooh. And I want to say this is very situational, right? Like it depends on the parent, depends on the family, depends on the dynamic. But I do think that it's an interesting transition, right? Especially because, not that boys aren't experiencing a lot of things through, all these hormones, but
Yes.
girls are experiencing a whole lot of other things. And so that's, I think, something that is really bonding with mom, because we can relate to those things, right? And I think, yeah, it really depends on the family, depends on the parents. And I think if you've built a solid foundation when they were younger, it seems to be a lot easier almost to do that transition of teens, for any parent, really. But yeah, it really depends. And a lot of the parents I see, I usually am seeing a lot more mom than dad, typically. So
Mhm.
that to me is really interesting in itself, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm a boy mom, so I didn't have little girls, but I was one. So that's what made me think about it.
Yes, yes. No, I'm a boy mom too, so I get that. Yes, the boy moms, boy moms unite.
Yes. Oh man, I love my boys. I had boys. My brother had the girls, which he had one boy and three girls, and I just had the two boys, and then five grand boys. Still. living, I had 7 total, but 2 of my grandboys unfortunately have crossed over. So all boys, like in my world, it's just been boys, boys, boys everywhere. So I just wonder sometimes how other parents deal with the growing young ladies too, because it's a totally different thing for girls than it is for boys. There's a lot of different stuff. I mean, just the clothes for one thing. Holy cow. You know, but that's a whole nother conversation that we won't get into. But do you have any advice for the parents who are listening to this and today to help them navigate the teen years?
My advice is always believe in yourself as a parent. You are doing the best you can, and there's no exception. Even if it may not feel like it, you truly are, with the skills, with the energy level, with all of other things that are going on in your life. Like, you are truly doing the very, very best that you can, with no exception. So if it may not feel like one of the best days, give yourself some grace and really role model that for your kids, because we're all going to screw it up sometimes. We're all going to make mistakes. That's just part of being human. And model it for your kids that, you know what, when we make mistakes, make it okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, and allowing our kids to see that. And then it's, well, how do we come back from that? Is it, we have a conversation, and maybe it requires an apology, and it's
Mm,
okay to do that.
yeah,
And I really always want every parent to feel empowered in who they are and how they show up as a parent, because that is more important than anything. If kids can see their parents happy or motivated or making mistakes, and it's okay to be making mistakes,
right.
they're completely different teenagers. So really, as much as, yes, it's for the kids and we do so much for the kids, as a mom, like, I get that, but there's so much when we focus, not that we don't care about the kids, but focusing on ourselves, making ourselves a priority, on being on the priority list too,
Yes,
and not just the kids are everything. Not that they're not important, but they're not everything, because if we're not taking care of ourselves as parents, we're not going to show up as patient or as kind or as loving, or our kids pick up on that. So I would, yeah, that would be my little piece of advice, that remember that you are doing the very best that you can.
yes. I love that whole thing. And it just reminds me of how profoundly important it is for kids to get that apology from their parents when we make a mistake, because we're human too. We don't have this nailed. None of us humans have it nailed to where it's absolutely flawless every day. That is not the way real life happens. It's the human condition that we make mistakes sometimes. So, and I feel like it's really, really important for kids to be able to hear that, even as adults, even adult kids, when you go to your parents and they've done something, that you didn't like or hurt your feelings in some way or whatever, to hear that apology is so moving. It really is. And the part where parents need to understand that they're important too. So boundary setting, right? Do you teach boundary setting for the teens and the parents when you're coaching?
Yeah, boundaries are super, super important. And like you said, at any age, right? So yes, that's definitely something that we talk about, because it is so important.
That's awesome. And what age do you start coaching, Amanda?
Oh, this is such a hard question to answer, because I don't necessarily say that there's a specific age, because at any age, it there's no age requirement to
Okay,
working with a coach. I mean, my mission is every young person has a coach. So it's, every age. And it doesn't mean that necessarily I'm their coach, because I know I'm not the coach for everyone, and that's okay. That's why there's different coaches that have different
right.
personalities, or different coaches who specialize in certain things. So I typically, right now, most of my clients are between the 14 to 24 age range. but I've worked with kids that were as young as like 11, but it's a lot of it is the maturity level. Like, are they mature enough to participate in coaching? Or even more importantly is, do they want to participate in coaching? Like, does your teen, tween, young adult want to participate in coaching? Because if they don't, coaching won't be as effective. And so I think that that's more important than age. It's, do they want to be a part of coaching? Is that something that they want to do? Because if they do, then things, it just works better that way. Like,
Sure.
no, I think everyone can relate to this. Like, no one wants to be dragged somewhere or told that they have to do something. Like, nobody likes that feeling. Nobody likes being told what to do. So if they can sort of raise their hand to say, hey, this is something that I might be interested in, I think that is way more important than age.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Absolutely. I just didn't know if you personally had a cutoff for your age of, like the younger ones, if you did that or not. So that's good to know for sure. And so I'm so excited for what you do. I can't even tell you, because I just think our young people are so important. And it's such a vital thing in this world for us to learn how to thrive in life and not just exist, and not just have this autopilot program that we, get out of bed and just push play on. And it's like the same thing every day, all day. Maybe just a little bit of a different music on one day than another, or a different movie or whatever, but basically it's the same life. So I love the thriving piece and teaching kids how to embrace their true selves. And, and that's what you do. Hello, true self, right? So that's so
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
I absolutely love that. So tell people where they can find you if they want to have you as their coach.
Yeah. So there, you can find me on social media. So Facebook, LinkedIn, with my name. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm the only one that you'll find with that name. So you can easily find me there. I also have my website, which is hellotrueself.com. And please, like, feel free to reach out to me with any questions, or, even if you feel like maybe my coaching style or your kid isn't ready to dive into coaching, like, I have resources that will help teens regardless to be able to support them into maybe considering the idea of coaching, or just reaching out to ask questions around coaching itself and what that might look like. I have a really large network of coaches that I know that work with young people, and I would be happy to make a referral if for some reason, maybe I don't connect with your teen, or maybe the programs that I offer aren't exactly what your teen's looking for. So I always say, reach out with any questions. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me with any questions you may have. I want to be a resource for you, for your parent, or for your teens rather, to get the support that they need to be able to thrive, is exactly what I'm here for. So please reach out to me with any questions that you may have about coaching and what that might look like for your young kids.
Awesome. And would you also encourage the teens to reach out to you if they have a question
Yeah,
on their own?
absolutely.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, no, if there's a teen out there who feels called to explore what coaching is and what it's about, definitely reach out, and I can, answer questions and maybe give some ideas on how to even, have, because it's the parent having the conversation with their teen about it, but it's also the teen having the conversation with their parents about introducing the idea of coaching. So I have lots of resources, so please, please, please reach out. I'm here to support in any way that I can.
Awesome. I just have one more question, Amanda, and that is around bullying, because I know that is very prevalent. And we spoke about social media and how that it doesn't stop when you leave the school. It's all over Instagram and TikTok and all the social media platforms. So what would you say to kids who are struggling with that particular thing?
You are amazing. You are worthy. You are enough. And remember that when the bully is being the bully, it actually has nothing to do with us, right? Like, it's so funny that we make it about us when we're being bullied, but it actually has nothing to do with us. And I try to approach this bullying with actually compassion, because I feel actually quite sad for someone who feels like they need to bully other people and put other people down for themselves to feel better, because that's all that it is. It's they're bullying you because they don't feel good about themselves. It's that, hurt people, like they're hurting inside, and so they feel like they need to hurt other people to make themselves feel better. So it has nothing to do with you. Do not take it personally. And I know this is easier said than done sometimes, but surround yourself with a group of friends who see who you are and who love you for who you are and value you as a person. And as difficult as I know that it can be to sort of shut out the bullying, just kind of going back to what we were saying of figuring out who you are, find your strengths, find what you're good at. Don't let the bullies get to you, because what other people say about you says more about them than it does about you.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I remember a day when I had somebody saying mean things to me, and it was a pivotal moment for me when I realized that, and it was like I was making a list in my head of everything they were saying, and I was going, that's like not even true. That is such a big lie. That's not who I am at all. So I think maybe doing an exercise like that too, as someone's talking to you, just make that mental list. You don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to say a thing, but you can make that mental list and ask yourself, is that true about me? And if it's not, then you don't have to take that garbage on. You just don't. No.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I I remember, oh, I remember bullies can be so mean. And I say this from experience because I was bullied. I was bullied a lot when I
Mhm.
was younger. And I think when we can step into our own confidence, when we can find our own footing of who we are, and we can stand in the power of who that is, and that who you are as a person is really special and you are a gift to the world. I'm always reminded that, there is like a 1 in 400 trillion chance that you are on this earth right now, which is just like mind blowing. Like,
It
what?
is.
That's just crazy. Right. So
Yeah.
there's a reason why you're here. And so don't let their lack of self-confidence from the bully to bring down your confidence. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, oh gosh, there's a million more things I want to say here, but really, knowing who you are, I think is huge, right? Like when we can say, yeah, no, that's not true about me, just like you were saying, I think that that's super powerful.
Right. Now you said the lack of confidence in a bully, but they always seem to come across as being very confident. They are the ones who are strutting through the hallways at school with their head up and their shoulders back and talking a little louder and faster than everybody else. So how would you let the person who is being bullied know, like what can we help them with as far as perspective goes when they're looking at this person who seems so confident, but you're saying that, and I agree with you, that the words that are coming out of their mouth literally are showing you that they do not actually have that confidence.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it right there, is pay attention to their words, because if usually the nasty voices in somebody's head come out and they project them onto other people.
Mhm.
So this is just I mean, now we're getting into psychology, but you know, like this is science. This isn't, you know, my opinion, your opinion, like this is science, right? Like this is just what people do. This is what the brain does. And so knowing that it's not even just, we're not just making this up. This is actually, there's science, there's facts behind this, and recognizing, you know, when someone does say something nasty to you, think to yourself, oh wow, when they're sitting in their bedroom at home all alone, these are the things that they're telling themselves. These are the things that the bully is saying to themselves, or maybe even they've heard from a parent or a family member. Like, this is why I'm going back to that, you know, I feel so sad for them. My heart
Yes.
breaks for them. And don't let their, you know, mask of confidence fool you. And I think to a certain extent, we can all somewhat relate to, you know, sometimes wearing this mask. So that's just the bully's mask. But really underneath all of those nasty things that they say or that they do is something that they're doing to themselves, or they've had someone else do to them or say to them. It can, this isn't, you know, an overnight, like sometimes this can take work. So again, not beating yourself up as if you are being bullied, beating yourself up and feeling like, well, how can, you know, Amanda and Dee said, you know, that it's just about them, it's not about me. And I just, you know, don't believe it at first, but it takes time. This is something that, you know, over time, I've learned, like when I was younger and being bullied, believe me, like there was many times when I cried about it and I felt like really hurt and upset and took it personally.
Yeah.
But over time now I've realized that it wasn't about me. It never was.
Right.
And so now I can confidently say, I know this to be the truth. And even just, you know, through what we learn as coaches, how people treat other people, right? So yeah, that's kind of what I would say there. Just be kind to yourself. Be kind
Yes.
to yourself.
That's always I always say, if you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. Be your own best friend, you know?
Yes, yes, I love that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I just love what you do, Amanda. I have so much respect for you. I mean, I share your stuff all the time because I want this to be far and wide, just like you do, because I feel that life is so crazy right now, and there's so many other things going on in our world too, not just in our schools, but in our world as a whole. So I really feel like that kids, young people really need this just someone to be there and to boost them up and talk them through all of this craziness. So I hope if you're listening to this right now, you will reach out to Amanda if you're a teen or a young adult or a younger than teen, or you're a parent or an aunt or an uncle or a grandma or anybody who feels like that your child or, you know, the child in your life would, and look at me, I'm getting emotional about this because I just think it's so beautiful. But reach out to Amanda. This is what she does. This is her passion, and she would love, love, love to help you through this crazy life and teach you to thrive and be self-confident and love yourself and see your self-worth. So I'm going to drop all of her information in the description box below this video. And I hope that y'all will like and subscribe and share this. This is powerful information. Please connect with Amanda on social media because she's always putting out free content too. She didn't say that, but I did. She's putting out the beautiful free content. So y'all get a lot of tips and tricks just by visiting her pages and reading what she puts out there. So Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so grateful for you and what you do. You're beautiful, and I wish so many blessings on you.
Thank you so much, Dee. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful for the space. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone for watching, for listening. And yes, I hope to connect with you all to be able to support the young people in your life in any way that I can, whether it's through my free content that Dee mentioned, or if you have any questions and I can refer you to someone else, or if it's through my programs. Please, please, please reach out if you know a young person in your life that could use this support. So yes, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much. And just before we go, tell us how we do say your last name.
It just looks intimidating. It sounds the way it looks. So it's Chatzi Constantino.
Chatzi Constantino. That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you, Amanda, so much. And we will see y'all on the next episode of Eternal Evolution of Self. Thank you so much.